we're about to close out, but wanted to end with one final spotlight. And so, one of the exciting elements of being the 9th annual Island Resilience Summit is some of the speakers come through and they too evolve, especially our serial entrepreneurs. And I'm excited to bring onto the stage our final spotlight, Nick Davis. Nick Davis is the CEO of Grid Market, which is a AI platform that has helped governments and private sector portfolios across the globe optimize their transition to renewable energy and distributed data grids. But he's here in a different capacity. Nick is in building these energy grids across the globe. Nick recognized a critical gap in maintaining, securing, and protecting a lot of this energy infrastructure, as well as data centers. And that led him to launch a fleet robotics company that uses physical AI to perform the tasks that otherwise would be either too costly, too risky, or simply impossible for humans to do. And so with that, SMR Defense was born, and he is here along with one of his autonomous robot dogs. Yes, a robot dog is in the room to present and highlight how technology and innovation is being brought to the front lines across the globe. With that, please join me in welcoming Nick Davis to the stage.
Hey everyone. We can mess around with this later and some people can drive if my battery lasts. I haven't charged them in a little while, but Nick Davis here. People have seen me previously in the capacity of Grid Market's CEO. Grid Market's my core company. We build what's increasingly interesting for the world, but typically clean on-site energy projects, which the biggest of which were actually in island nations, but most are for industrial companies, folks like automotive manufacturers, cold storage facilities, et cetera. But most recently, it's really been the data center space. So large critical infrastructure properties. We have around 54 data centers where we're providing and designing and orchestrating these on-site energy projects. So why we're here with a robot is it occurred to me about a year and a half ago that if we're going to have this world where critical infrastructure is increasingly distributed, so small modular reactors and nuclear tech everywhere, these data centers everywhere, there are frankly going to be too many for people to secure, for people to maintain, and for people to defend. And it's a massive vulnerability. Critical infrastructure is very vulnerable. The grid is vulnerable. These critical assets and energy projects are vulnerable. And where it also ties to island nations in some capacity as well is I remember being out in Palau for one of our first initiatives, and there was almost a megawatt of solar that was already installed, and almost none of it was functional because there were certain outages, there were fuses out, and the donors that installed these projects didn't provide any education or capacity about how to fix them. So it became a graveyard of interesting opportunities and interesting clean generation. And for all of these reasons, we have launched this multi-fleet, multi-asset project. We have drone quadrupeds with robotic arms on their back. We have UAVs, so basically self-launching drones that can patrol and secure. And they can really take advantage of the technologies of the day, computer vision, all of this amazing stuff to gather data points that the general market and even a team of people cannot and would not. To be able to see how technologies degrade faster, to be able to see where there's risk, and ultimately to be able to handle really fissile or dangerous material from radioactive waste in certain cases in certain places that people shouldn't frankly be handling, to things like arc flash reactors, reactions, and things that are kind of dangerous from an electrical perspective. So I don't know, are we able to scan on this? Maybe not. The slides, whatever. We'll focus mostly on the dog. So aside from doing cool tricks, and again, we'll give some folks the chance to drive if they want, what's particularly interesting about this robotic system is the data points that it can grab. So when you look at what one of these dogs is picking up, and there are all these retrofits that we build and put on top of this core unit that we get from a bunch of different manufacturers. But this is its robotic arm that sits on its back, for instance, and moves around to provide maintenance tasks. Maybe it can turn a light bulb, turn a screwdriver, do other interesting things too, but is really being geared up to help fix critical infrastructure that it is that it's identifying. But these things are fully autonomous. You can basically create a route and it'll patrol around. So one of the last presentations that we did that was nature focused was for Matt's Nature Summit down in Panama. And we were exploring the idea of having patrols in the Darien Gap, which is massively under-patrolled, and it causes a lot of environmental degradation with a lot of migration coming through, a huge amount of pollution, and a lot of other things that generally need to be policed and managed and monitored. There are also nice aspects to all of this besides security and like maintenance of electrical systems. In certain places and applications, you're seeing people use this for pollination, basically putting seeds on their back and having them march around the forest, do long-term forest monitoring, a lot of other stuff. I'll note, this is our tiny unit. This is just for coding and walking to places like this. The units actively in the field are humongous. They are basically the size of a Great Dane dog. Fully waterproofed and kind of interesting. So again, plenty of interesting tricks this thing can do. Well, hopefully it doesn't fall off the stage doing a dance. But I think the broader functionality and the broader opportunity with these kinds of things is, we're just getting started. I think over the next 10 years, there's going to be a pretty massive physical AI revolution. You're going to see these things in your homes. You're going to see them in different capacities on the street, performing maintenance tasks, performing security tasks. But they can be trained to do a lot, and they can cover a lot of ground, which hopefully gives us more time to do other things. And maybe we spend less, paying for maintenance items for things that shouldn't be breaking so quickly. So I'm not going to present too much more. We can spend most of our time messing around in the back if people want to see it do tricks, or if anyone wants to try to drive them. That is it's always a fun thing to do. We can have them walk the stairs, stand up, and do creepy things. But he vacillates between cute and terrifying. But yeah, just to close out kind of the features of what we're looking at here, there are so many different applications. What we're really focused on is what we deem as critical infrastructure. We definitely think nature and the environment's a part of it. Obviously, from a financial perspective, we spend a lot of our time focusing on energy projects, data centers, some of the mission critical work. But these industries are humongous. Physical AI is growing, of course. All the sectors that this is serving are growing tremendously. And the technology is really there at this point to have autonomous systems, autonomous networks, and of course, robotics that are actually stepping into the world here. So I think back in the 70s and 80s, this was all kind of a fantasy. Will this happen? And the crazy thing is it's here. Clicking through the commercial, just giving you a bit of a sense of the kind of units that we're looking at. We have a variety of quadrupeds that we're retrofitting and using and putting in the field. Then, of course, those remote launching and remote operating and self-charging UAVs that are attached to little microgrid networks like solar and battery. The humanoid stuff is kind of a gimmick at this point. I think humans probably do a job as better than a humanoid robot could, but the reality is these things are kind of made for tramping around in the woods and in harsher environments. Dogs are better at getting around in terrain than we are. We're good at pushing energy to our heads so we can be smart, but we're not so good at running around in fields. So we'll skip the demo, but this just gives a sense of the amount of coverage we can get with one of these things versus human patrols. It's really many, many factors higher. Hundreds of acres versus many, many more. So again, I'll cut it here, and if people want to try to drive before the battery runs out, we can. But we're actively raising money. We're actively looking for partners to help us deploy more of these in the field. So if you have interesting critical infrastructure sites, if you have a piece of national park you want patrolled, if you have energy projects that need monitoring and maintenance, or any grid infrastructure that is otherwise vulnerable, these are the kinds of things that we're really slated to patrol and manage. So with that, I will walk him down the stairs. Gets around better than my parents.